Hi, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and I'm in Midwest Georgia on my farm that we call the Beloved. And a couple of years ago, Steve was down here and he's like, Jeff, this place is so cool. And I'm like, Steve, duh. It is my escape from the world. It's our hunting property, our fishing property. It's where a lot of my sweat, a little bit of my blood is in this ground, just trying to leave it better than I found it. And it's about 3,000 acres, so why don't we take the truck? I think it's too far to walk. It was originally part of the Callaway family were the largest contiguous landowners in Georgia. They had like 52,000 acres. And out of that, this part was kind of where they farmed, and this was their hunting and fishing part of it. For whatever reason, they decided they weren't going to do it anymore and they were going to sell it to become a golf course. Well, I had been down here hunting and I thought, no, not a golf course. This is the prettiest place I've ever seen in Georgia. You could put a golf course anywhere. I said to my wife, I want to buy a farm. She didn't even ask me how much. She said, do you love it? I said, yeah, I think I love it. And she said, okay. We have about 60 miles of roads throughout the whole property, and so you've got to maintain them. And so up here at the barn, I actually bought a motor grader from a government surplus sale, and bulldozers and tractors and choppers and dump trucks and lawnmowers, and this is what it takes to take care of this place. It's a lot of work and a lot of fun. Fort Benning is about a half hour down the road, and from time to time they have auctions. So let me show you this thing. This thing is called, we call it Black Betty. It's a reticulated tractor, but give you an idea of how big this is. There's the tires. And when they have auctions, you can't drive the stuff. You just gotta bid on it on site. But we researched it, and these tires sell for like over $4,000 a piece. And so we said, you know what, let's bid $10,000, and if it doesn't run, we can sell the tires and get our money back. It's also a great way to look for sheds, because when you're up in the cab, you can see a long way. Here's the great thing about living in Atlanta, because traffic is so bad. When you've got this in downtown Atlanta, nobody gets in your way. And I'm talking about nobody. So all of this stuff under this shed really is for the wildlife. It's to make things better. I wanted to have a place where the wildlife had no reason to want to go anywhere else. Everything they needed was right here. Look at this thing we turned into a burn buggy. Look at this. Yeah, so we burn so much on the farm. We do a checkerboard burn. We burn about 1,000 acres a year. And so you got to have something to light your fires and sometimes to put them out when your fire breaks don't work. It's our burn buggy. So one of my hobbies, I'm fascinated with Native Americans. When I first bought the farm, the guy I bought it from had a stone bowl next to his desk. It was a bowl made out of stone, and I commented on it, and he said, yeah, that came out of the bank of the creek right there on your property. He said, I sent it to the Smithsonian Institute, and they dated it as 5,000 years old from a non-nomadic tribe that was living there on the farm. So I always tell my kids, I said, anytime you feel like this is our farm or we own it, do know that 3,000 years before Jesus was born, somebody was calling this home. This is where they live, so we don't own it. We're just the stewards of it for a couple of generations. So I'm fascinated with Native Americans, and Glenn Garner and I, who's my farm manager, and he's always looked for arrowheads and Native American artifacts. With the help of his dad, Larry Garner, we built this contraption. We call it the rattlesnake, but it's got vibrating motors in it. You can tow it behind the truck, and we go dig for arrowheads all over the country. So this thing is made out of half of an old shipping container. That's like the frame, and we cut that in half, and then we built this, and you dump that up here, and it catches the big rocks and limbs and things. The dirt comes through, and this vibrates, and the sifted dirt goes through the bottom, and all you have is the rocks there, which vibrate their way down the screen. And then I'm usually standing here at the back, throwing rocks off and looking for arrowheads, which we have a little catch tray here at the back. And it works. So I've never had an interest in hunting anything that I wasn't going to eat. I don't want to just kill something for the sake of killing it. And here on this property, biologists have told us we need to take about 150 deer a year just to keep the numbers level, which is kind of the carrying capacity for this property. 150 deer a year is a lot of deer to clean. So this is our cleaning shed. It's summertime now, so it's not up and running. We can clean a deer from the back of the truck to hanging in the cooler in about 8 or 9 minutes. We'll hang them up in there, we'll bring them out, we'll process them out here, and then we call people to come pick them up. But every single deer that gets taken on our place gets eaten by somebody. We've got to deal with Hunters for the Hungry. We've got a couple of churches. We've got a rescue mission. We'll process the deer for them. All they got to do is come and pick it up. It's kind of a fascinating thing, and people that love the outdoors, you realize this, but I don't think I've ever spent a day in the woods where at the end of the day I thought, well, that wasn't worth it. So it's always worth it. Something, you always see something or experience something that you wouldn't have seen if you hadn't have been there otherwise, and it's always going on. Started about a 3-year project on building a lake. Went, talked to biologists and cut different levels, and we had bedding areas for different kinds of fish. We got pea gravel, we got broken sewer pipes as protective cover, but we built this lake from scratch. My house sits right there, kind of in the middle of the horseshoe, and we've had an osprey for 2 years. And so in the morning I sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and watch an eagle catch a fish. That's a pretty good way to start a day. Thank God this guy's a nudist. This is the only place where a neighborhood comes up against my property. And we'll drive past there sometimes, and he'll be working on his truck naked. And I remember one time when I was 10, I saw my grandmother naked, and that's like a file I can't delete in my brain. She was getting out of the tub, and it looked like a bloodhound in a shower cap. It was like nothing was in the right place. It's PTSD. So we're coming up. We make a dove field. Every year we have a big dove hunt. We do like a low country boil and cook for everybody, and have about 50 people come out, do the opening day of dove season. Then we make dove and jalapeno poppers. So this is our dove field. We're still about a month off, but the sunflowers have already bloomed, and you can see the heads of them now are starting to dry up. Well, that's the sunflower seeds that birds love to eat. Yeah, they're still just a little green. So, for some reason, doves like to sit on a power line. We don't know why. We've asked them. They didn't return the phone call. So we made a dove field, made an awesome dove field with sunflowers and corn and different things. But we didn't have a line up here. And so the telephone company has old telephone poles that they take down from time to time. And So we went and got some old telephone poles, and the doves like to sit there and look at their place. Makes them happy. Don't know why, because they don't stay. They're for the winter. I think they go to Phoenix and like a mobile home park or something like that. They don't stay here. We plant food plots for the deer. We create duck ponds for the waterfowl. We create habitat for the quail. You know, every part of this place is kind of made to take care of somebody. And I've always kind of felt like, okay, if I take care of the land and I take care of the wildlife, it will return the favor. It's all like a big circle because this place takes care of us. This place, as we nourish it, it nourishes our soul. So it's kind of a real cool loop. The only fun of having a place like this is sharing it. To have it, just to have it, doesn't mean anything, but when you get to share it with other people that you love and care about, that's when it gets really cool. Or you get to, you know, bring a wounded warrior out that just wants to kill a deer, and they do, and that's the fun of having this. We've kind of lost touch with that because I think in previous generation, people's ancestors lived on farms, and you had a place to go hunt, you had a place to go explore, and that's what kids did. They went out and explored in the woods, and they learned how to cross a creek, and they learned how to make a clubhouse or whatever. And it doesn't happen as much now. You don't have the small family farms. You've got the big corporate conglomerate farms. So places like this become more and more precious. All right, so this is the lodge. The lodge was built in 1932, not as a place to stay, but as an octagonal grain barn. The Callaway family built 3 of them. There's 2 still standing, but you see where the front door is, that's where you would drive the truck in, and there was a conveyor belt that went from ground level up to the top, and as they would collect corn and different grains, they would store them in bins, which therefore the octagonal shape coming off the middle, and then when they would pull them out, they would lower and it would come back in. But we needed a place to stay and refurbish this thing, and it's nothing fancy. It's a concrete floor, it's old boards and all, but for whatever reason, people love it. So this is the interior of the lodge. This deer, I named him Rewipe because when you saw him, that's what you needed to do, was rewipe. But he's actually the Harris County bow record, the biggest typical deer shot in Harris County. I think he's number 3 all-time typical with a bow in the state of Georgia. A few of my artifacts during COVID, we would go out every morning and take the sifter, and we'd look for arrowheads for an hour before we started work every day. That was kind of how we passed the time. We don't have really pretty arrowheads here at the farm because it's what they had to work with. It's a lot of quartz, a little bit of chert, but don't even ask my wife. She has shoes, I have arrowheads. This deer was named Zeus. The last deer I shot with a gun on the farm. That's generally probably my favorite. This deer, he goes straight up. You get a good angle of him there. He goes straight up. So you have to name him because you're referring to him. And so I named him Will Smith, kind of like Will Spade in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So, that's the lodge, which is great, but it's an old grain barn, and old barns don't have closets. New barns don't have closets. And so the wives used to get all upset because we'd have our bows and our hunting clothes everywhere. And so this used to be an old storage shed, and we're like, why don't we just make a locker room out of it where we can put our bows and our hunting clothes and things. And so we deemed it Manland. And if you're ever having like a testosterone deficit, this is the place you come to be replenished. So the first thing you notice when you come in, the bows are on the wall. And I didn't become a bow hunter until about 18 years ago. I grew up hunting with a gun. And so I shot a 138-inch deer, the first deer I ever killed with a bow. And I sat there and I was just shaking like a 15-year-old with his first deer. And I thought, this is how I want to feel. This is how I want to feel every time. And so I just kind of made a radical decision. I said, I'm not hunting with a gun anymore. I'm hunting with a bow. And it was like learning to hunt all over again. I don't know, you just feel like you earn an animal when you get close enough to shoot him with a bow and arrow. So we made an expansion, and my buddy David Morris said when we laid it out, he said, however big you think you need it, make it twice as big. I'm glad we made it twice as big. What this is it's a room full of stories. Like every single mount, there's a story about it somewhere. I shot him with a bow in New Zealand, him up at the 30 miles from the Arctic Circle. Big elk, Dall sheep, that was in the Northwest Territories. That was my first bull elk. That was in New Mexico. I shot him in Utah. Most of the deer over here are off at the farm. This was Ronald. That deer in the corner, that was Herschel. This right here, that's the biggest mule deer I ever shot with my bow. I shot him at 20 yards. The funny thing about shooting a moose is once he hits the ground, the fun has stopped. His hindquarters weighed about 250 pounds. At some point, you're like, do we really need to mount another deer head? That's the fun thing about this room, is you can point to something and it brings up a story. That's what human beings are. We're stories. And as a comic, you know, that's what you think of. What do you and I have in common? No matter where I'm playing in the country. I'm obviously from the South, but I can go to Minnesota, I can go to Wisconsin, and I can share things because even though the scenery's different and the accent's different, it's a shared experience. Because all people want the same things out of life. They want to be able to take care of their family, you know, they want to be able to have somebody that they love, and they want to be part of something significant. They want to have significance themselves. And I think that's what all of our stories do, is they make us significant because they're all unique and they're all important.